Hello and welcome everybody once again to the Windy City's finest on location with Clark and Perry. I'm Clark, he's Perry, this is
Charlie Christensen.
Inspiring the Artist in You. Excellent. I'm very excited to be sitting down with you here, Charlie. We are going to be interviewing you as like a rigging artist for the most part, or at least showing a little bit of that. But first things first, I think we wanted to get into something a little bit new as part of our structure for the show. And Perry, you got something for us. It's going to be the challenge of spot the lie here going forward. We're going to use this as a chance to kind of get to know you and for you to get to know me as well too. I don't know what's coming up, so Perry, why don't you give us the first one?
All right, good times.
Oh yes, that's right. And by the way, folks, thank you again so much to Good Times Comedy Club for allowing us use of the space as well. Big shout out to them. And featured here.
Awesome. Our first question is for you, Brent.
Oh, okay.
And this is about Charlie.
Okay, excellent.
So our question number one is, his favorite color is green.
Ooh.
His birthstone color is purple.
What?
And his first car's color was light silver.
Okay. All really vague answers. Okay, I love it. So green, I actually, you're not wearing any greens, but I feel like you're a green guy. So I feel like that's a bit of a truth. The birthstone, oh, that's like amethyst and onyx, or it was purple. So I actually don't know what other birthstone that could be. So, yeah, okay, sounds good. And then the car being light silver, I'm gonna have to accept as a truth. If that's the lie, you got me. So I'm gonna say that the birthstone is not purple. Oh, dang! What was it?
My first car was charcoal gray.
Oh,
it was dark gray, not light.
You clever guy. you got me. That sounded so much like the truth right there, because mine was light silver, or like light gray as well. So I was like, there we go. What is the birthstones? Like, I got a little confused there. It was, is it the amethysts or something? Oh yeah, it's per month as well.
Yeah, it's each month is a certain gemstone or something.
Right.
So, yeah.
Purple, pink, I think that's amethyst for you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Something like that. Anyways, that's not part of this feature.
It's purple. Yeah.
Awesome.
I got my ear pierced when I was 8, and my mom was like, "Here, you can have a purple stone in it because it's my birth month."
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
Nice.
What do we have next?
Next question is for you, Charlie, about Brent. So, his favorite color is blue. He does not like the extraordinarily sweet, and he has a master's degree in business admin.
You're not that old, so a master's is kind of tough. But what was the middle one? The second
Middle
question?
one was, does not like the extraordinarily sweet.
I'm going to go with that as the lie.
No, I certainly do not have my master's.
No, maybe you're a boy wonder. You graduated at 15.
Nope. Nope, not there. I have been thinking about getting it though, because it's been something that I realize I'm at a point in my life where, a master's does kind of sound like a good idea, getting some more further education, and I've really appreciated. Well, it's a master's degree that my father has gone and gotten the bachelor's for. So I figured, you know what? Why not? But yeah, no, absolutely. The extra. Oh wow, I can't even say what I typed.
Extraordinarily sweet.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I can't stand it. Like cotton candy is great in small bits. Like I'll typically, have some of my nephews or something like that, or like my cousins. But I can't eat the whole wad myself, because otherwise I just go through a huge sugar rush. That's why I drink like black coffees or water. I don't drink the dark pops or anything like that often. It's more of a treat. So, but yeah.
Nice.
Our next question is for you, Brent.
It's for me. Okay.
So, in his youth, Charlie went on a road trip to Kansas. He's seen Mount Rushmore.
Okay.
And he spent a month in California.
Oh, geez, man, they're all so closely related. You clever fox, you. Okay, so Kansas, I certainly believed California, yeah, okay. And seen Mount Rushmore? I've seen Mount Rushmore, so I think you've seen Mount Rushmore. I guarantee, I'm very sure. The younger years going to Kansas, I feel like is a little specific, so I feel like that could be the truth. And then California, I feel like it was just thrown in there. I feel like that's the lie. California was the lie. Yes! Awesome. Okay, I got a little too excited there as well too. Was I right? Like, so in the younger years, going to Kansas, like, what was the reason for that?
My dad works in the dairy industry, and there was like a big conference in Kansas City one year.
Yeah.
So my parents decided to pull my sister and I out of school for like 3 weeks and drive to Kansas City for the thing that he had to do, and then we stopped off at, Mount Rushmore. We saw Graceland. We saw like a cave in North Dakota, and like just did a cool family road trip.
Whole family road trip and
Yeah.
everything. Did you folks like bring an RV, or was it like?
No, just a car.
Oh, yeah.
It was 1990, and we stayed at motels and.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
classic. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
just nothing but your sister and you just in the back seat the entire time. And
Yeah, every time we would cross the state line, because it was 1990, we're like, where's the sign? Where's the sign? And if it didn't have the sign saying seatbelts are compulsory,
yeah.
we got to take our seatbelt off.
Yeah, there we go.
Different times.
Different times, of course. Awesome, awesome. That's so cool.
Our next question is for you, Charlie. So, Brent secretly wishes to own a dog later in life. His happy place is the beach. He owns a large collection of pop tabs.
I'm going to go with the beach being the lie.
It is my absolute boy wonder. So I'm originally from New Brunswick, and Shediac is where my great aunt and uncle have a cottage, and so we typically just go and enjoy the beach. That is our vacation when we go and we visit family as well too. So it has become my happy place. I've even thought about getting a tattoo where it's got like a beach and like a scenic background of like Bay of Fundy or something like that as well too. So. Yeah, and then, I kind of want a dog. I've been thinking about it. I've been playing around with it. I don't own a home that allows dogs yet, just because I'm renting, but yeah.
So it was the pop tabs.
The pop tabs, definitely. Yeah, I used to, when I was a kid, I actually used to collect all of them,
Yeah.
but then I eventually just donated them because, I had other interests, and eventually it was just, I had collected, I think it was like £1.50 worth of pop tabs. So it
was once upon a time true.
once upon a time truth, half truth, half lie. I tried to be clever on that one.
Well, I figured, your happy place has got to be somewhere close to here. And there's not a lot of beaches, so I was wrong. But
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Our next question is for you, Brent.
Okay.
So,
One for one.
Charlie shot a short film in the Great Sandhills of Saskatchewan. He made his first short film in 2004, and there's bonus points if you can guess the title, but we'll get to that later. And then he shot a short film in a continuous single take, otherwise known as a oneer.
Very good. The Sandhills of Saskatchewan.
Great Sandhills.
The Great Sandhills of Saskatchewan. Oh man, I'm testing my own Canadian geography here. Wow, I feel like that's a lie, because like the other one had like bonus points for guessing the name. That's definitely a truth. I was like, yeah, if you're heavily invested in a lie, you got me. But that is definitely the truth. And then what was the last one again?
He shot a short film in a continuous singular take, otherwise known as a oneer.
I did read your bio, so I think you did mention something in regards to that. I feel like it's the sand dunes of Saskatchewan. That's the lie. No! Oh, you totally had me. Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
what was it?
the oneer.
The oneer.
Yeah, I have aspirations of doing that. I haven't yet. We did shoot an 8mm film that was all in-camera edits. So it's all on one roll of film, but there's
Gotcha.
multiple edits. It's, action, cut,
Yeah.
and then set up the next shot, Action.
Cut.
Yeah.
Oh, I got you now. That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
Gotcha.
I think it was, what was it? It wasn't Dunkirk, but there was a move, like a war movie that was
1917.
1917.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was the one that was like a continuous one action shot for like a huge scene that was going on, which was really cool. Well, okay. I read the bio. I must have mixed up something as well too.
That was a clever
very good.
one.
Sand dunes of Saskatchewan.
Oh, yeah.
My geography's not that good.
Yeah, it's just across the border, just barely, maybe half an hour into Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a production company from Vancouver that were shooting like a post-apocalyptic type of a story, and they shot a whole bunch of interior stuff on a set in Vancouver, but they needed to do, like, this character has to leave this house and make this trek across this vast expanse of sand, and so they found that place, and then they were looking for a local crew to come, and I brought my leaf blower and made a sandstorm, and it was a great time.
Amazing. I was just like, it really comes down to just being able to find and know your location as well when it comes to like finding a film set or otherwise. And I'm sure it's a bunch of permits as well, just to kind of find whichever land or permissions and all that such too. So yeah, that's nuts. Well, I learned something new, certainly 3 new things already today. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, if you need vast expanse of sand, the Great Sand Hills. Very good.
Perfect.
I mean, it's a big dune, but then there's some grass around it. So you really have to get creative with your angles, but you can make it look like it's the Gobi.
Nice. Awesome. All right, and it looks like we got one more as well too.
Our last question is for Charlie about Brent. So, his favorite song is September by Earth, Wind and Fire. He's a big fan of country music. His last bee sting was 1.5 years ago.
You could tell I was running out of like common themes.
Yeah. So it's June. 1.5 years ago would put us in the winter time. So I'm going to go with that being a lie.
That's actually a truth. And that actually, I can't refute that logic. That is on me. That is certainly on me.
1.25 years, 1 year and 3/4.
I didn't even think about that. It's probably been 2 years realistically. Okay. So I will count that as you won that one, just because I didn't write that one properly. That is so funny. No, I think the real lie was. Perry, remind me what they... Country music.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
okay, yeah.
I, teach their own. I'll listen to a song. It tires me.
But the genre as a whole is very just like, there's not a lot of greatness in there.
Yeah. I'm more of a rock fan. Yeah. I kind of like, sometimes like my show tunes, all that such too. I used to be a big hair metal, heavy metal fan back earlier. I still kind of am. I still go through my phases and such. But it's been, no, it's been interesting. Yeah, no, the bee sting, good catch, good catch. That's that one was on me for sure. So I'm really interested to talk a little bit more about your experience that you have with some of your other film sets as well. We're going to be going into a showcase piece here where we show a couple photos of some of the sets that you worked on. Do you have any stories that it comes to those sand dunes? You mentioned that you had a leaf blower that you had kind of used as well. Was it? Were you more on camera, more on the off camera side of things?
Yeah.
As well?
So that project, my title's Key Grip. But I mean, I brought the whole lighting package, and I brought a bunch of other accessories that we may have needed. And the highlight for me from that project was the story is about this character who's alone in a house with the windows are all broken and the sand is just coming in, and he has to make this long trek to this place that just collects water from the atmosphere. So he's on a water journey. Yeah. And as he's going, the wind picks up and a big sandstorm's coming in. So he just puts his hood up, puts his goggles down, and covers himself. Yeah. And waits for the storm to pass. So thankfully, we had Mother Nature on our side because the wind was blowing about 40 kilometers an hour already. So it already gave that big, wisp of dust across the sand. Yeah. And then to stand upwind with the leaf blower and push extra sand and just kind of bury the actor in the sand. And it made for a really amazing practical
really
effect.
Sells the image.
Yeah.
No, that's amazing. I'm kind of curious as well. Usually leaf blowers are super loud as well too.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of the work had to happen, I imagine, in post to kind of edit out.
For the sound. Well, I mean, because they're gonna like the sound of like a sandstorm coming, like
Right.
that's definitely all post production, you know, Foley and whatnot. So yeah.
No, that's so cool. That's so cool. How long were you on set that day?
So we shot. I think they were 10-hour days for 3 days out there in the
Nice,
in the sand.
nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I just on instinct, because I knew we were going to be out in the middle of nowhere, I brought my air compressor and like a tire chuck and some blowers and whatnot, just in case. And thankfully, I did that because after 10 hours in the sand, your camera, like everything is just full of sand everywhere.
Oh,
and so having the compressor with the little blower to shoot all the sand out.
Just get everything out of.
Yeah, the DOP and his first AC were just like, thank you so much.
No, that's amazing. Well, thank you obviously for sharing like the Spot the Lie game as well too,
Yeah,
and
that was
entertaining us on that end of things. A big thank you, of course, to Good Times Comedy Club for allowing us to film in this space. This has been fantastic. Couldn't have done it literally without you. But I think that's going to be all the time that we have for this segment. For those of you that are tuning into the live stream right now, stay tuned as we have more of a showcase showing off a couple of the photos of the sets that Charlie here has kind of worked on as well too. For those that are tuning in onto the YouTube or Telus Optic TV, thank you so much for watching. This has been the Windy City's Finest on location with Clark and Perry. I'm Clark. He's Perry. This Finest on location with Clark and Perry. I'm Clark. He's Perry. This is
Charlie Christensen.
Inspiring the artist in you. Excellent. Thank you so much for doing the Two Truths and a Lie, Spot the Lie, with us before. I'm very excited to kind of dive in. What you see in front of us right now is a laptop. Just kidding. A laptop with a bunch of photos of some of the previous sets that you've worked on as well too. So I think the primary part of this showcase is that we're going to dive into a little bit of like what we see in front of us and what the environment was like, and talking a little bit about that Saskatchewan dune like experience as well too. Another big thank you to Good Times Comedy Club, featured right behind us, for offering us the space to film. Couldn't have done it without you. Mwah. Excellent. So what we have in front of us right now, as we can kind of show our viewers before we get into the conversation real quickly, is the back of, I think it's your pickup truck?
It is, yes.
Is that right? It's got like a tarp, and then it's got like a mat and everything. Could you tell me a little bit about what was going on? What's happening?
So we were filming in Drumheller
Yeah.
in June of last year. And it was probably 32, 33 degrees, and there was no wind. But it was just a shot that like I didn't have anything to do. Like it was all handheld. It was out in this big, black sandy area.
Yeah.
So I spent my time rigging up a place where people could just take a rest.
Just take
in
a
the
rest.
shade.
I was about to say, it looks like somebody would just go ahead and take a nap and just relax and all
because
that stuff.
we
too.
had, like it was just nothing but open desert field for
Yeah.
miles. And so, we had like a cube truck with all of our equipment in it. And so my rack at the time, I just had the 2 bars, so stretching a fernie across the top to give that shade, and then another one from the back of my truck to the cube.
Yep.
Gave us, just some extra shade, and then like the stunt mats that we have on set for falls and whatnot. I was like, okay, well, we don't need them for these shots, so let's make a comfy spot. And then,
Yeah, absolutely. The stunt mats that I see, like are blue in color. I recognize them all the time at like school gymnasiums or something like that. Were these yours, or were these like the sets or something?
So this was a production run by Numera Films, and they're out of Calgary. Good, great people.
Yeah.
And one of them had a job as a custodian at a school a long time ago, and then had access to some mats, and they've got a collection of them just for making films now.
On their way out of the school, they just down from the wall and just take it to go.
And I have one myself as well, and so we had probably 4 mats all together, and made it comfy
and not to go too deep into this part of the subject as well too, but like your truck in particular is used as well for your typical day job, which is general contracting as well. The canopy, I imagine, is super helpful to kind of like not only move material, but also kind of like allow this like little bit of a shaded area as well too. How long have you like operated with that type of canopy?
Well, Yeah, I've done this.
If the canopy is even the right word.
Yeah, like it's a ladder rack. For
A ladder
hauling,
rack. There we
hauling
go.
ladders, materials, and I've actually expanded on it now because now it comes across the cab and it has a big mesh on there, so you could stand up there. That have like a long 16-foot box for like when I'm on set. I can put pipe rail, speed rail in there.
Right.
But for my regular day job, being the Windy City,
Yeah.
like soffit, fascia, soft metals that can get damaged in the wind, just goes up in there. But I can also walk across it. We can rig lights and camera up to it, and yeah, there's been a couple of different jobs where having a 4x4 is essential. Fill it full of gear, drive through the mountains up a trail so that we don't have to haul it all, by foot.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't like anything for film, right? Like anything for the shot. A lot of people can go through, but hiking through the mountains is certainly. If you could do it with a truck, why not?
Absolutely, yeah.
No, that's fantastic as well too. I noticed as well that you got like a compressor in the back, as just kind of sitting there. Was that used for this set in particular?
Again, same as the sand dunes in Saskatchewan, being dusty and dry in Drumheller, we did use it for a couple of like just maintenance things, blowing some dirt and dust out of there.
Nice.
I couldn't find the photo of this, but I did use it because we were shooting westerns and very, very, very low budget.
Yeah.
Prop guns, no squibs, no anything like that. So because I had the air compressor and I have a bunch of blower valves and a splitter, I ended up rigging something up where I had 3 lines coming off with like a button for each of them.
Right.
And then I ran air hoses and I kind of buried them in like a pile of sand. So as one guy is getting up to shoot, then I'm like, pff, 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 and just little puffs of air are shooting little bits of dust out, so it looks like he's getting shot at.
That is insane.
Stuff like that, like just very, very little,
That
but very,
is-
very functional.
That is so cool. You just addressed a question that I had yet to ask, but I've always had. I had no idea that is such a practical use of the compressed air, and totally makes sense as to, that just blows my mind. I was like, that's how it's done. That's
how it's done
perfect.
when you have no money.
That's how it's done when you have no money. There you go. Perfect. Well, I really appreciate that share. I just moved on to the second page, and we got 2 photos here. I'll just kind of show the camera here real quick before I steal it back. And but I think that the picture to the right-hand side looks like a massive tarp covering an entire building.
Yes.
Or like at least an entire quadrant of a building.
Yes.
Is that your tarp? Like, could you tell me a little bit about what that is?
Okay, so it's big and green. It's the Hulk.
Nice.
But yeah, I have a friend who has a pool and they cover it, and then every summer they take it off, and they don't like to store the tarp all year.
Yeah.
So they usually throw it out and buy a new one. So I've had a couple of these from them. They're a big 40-foot by 40-foot tarp.
Jeez.
And when I originally got it, I used it for roofing. Like there was even one time where we had a small roof on the go, and then a big rainstorm came, so we just threw the whole tarp over the entire roof and kept working.
Oh.
But now I have that in my collection, and for that Monique's on 4th shot, I wrapped half of Cat Panic's house to block out all the light. And then this was in Calgary, and my friend has a dance studio up there, and she wanted to do this video, and we were going to start at 6 p.m. and work until about 10, and so the light would change significantly during that time. So I was like, okay, I'll bring my tarp, and so we just wrapped a quarter of the corner of the building because it was on the 2nd floor, so we just draped it down and covered all the windows so that we had full control over the light in the studio.
Jeez. Well, you wouldn't like. I commend the simple practicality of just that as well too. Of being able to kind of control the lighting is some of the most difficult things that you can do. Because I mean, especially outdoor shots, like I'm sure any filmmakers that are viewing right now can attest, is that you're always fighting with the light and how much light you have before you start getting a grainy. No.
Well, and thankfully, like straight across from that building was another building with a huge spotlight, so it was just unwanted. Fluorescent spill into the building. So we were able to, do that. I don't have any photos of the interior stuff, but I rigged up about 8 lights to the ceiling in different places and ran cables everywhere and like hid all the lights. So that was pretty fun. But the big tarp around the building was just kind of one of those like, hey, you could make.
I knew I kept that tarp around for some reason as well too. No, that's great. And I was gonna. What do we have here in front of us?
Yeah.
We have something kind of covering the light in front. We have obviously like the rigging equipment just to kind of keep it there and secure. But what can you say to this image?
So this was in the Greyhound station in Calgary,
Right.
Which is now like abandoned and condemned and leaking and very gross.
Of course.
But yeah, we just needed to get a light up high without having the stand in the shot because we were shooting in the entire like foyer or grand hall of the old Greyhound station.
Right.
And so yeah, because I have a lot of contracting tools and tall ladders and whatnot, my gaffer was like, "Hey, is your ladder going to reach up there?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've been waiting for you to ask that."
Yeah.
So yeah, I was able to get about 25 feet in the air and rig this light up and aim it to where we needed to be, and then no stand in the way, nothing like that. And so like this is kind of a basic like rigging for film, like when you have to put lights up high and hide the stands, have no stands, whatever. And so yeah, we have what we call a beaver board, which is just like a board with a mount attached to it. So that's what the light is in, and then that's ratcheted to the concrete beam right there, so that it doesn't fall or whatever. And then in front of the light is a 4x4 gel frame, and so I had to attach it to the beaver board itself with a lollipop, like a big knuckle, and so then the light that we have there is just like a single color daylight, but we wanted it to be 3200, so then the orange, like the CTO frame, is in front of it to diffuse the light, and it was great.
That is so cool. And like a part of that job being on set is being very creative when it comes to just where you're going to be able to place those lights as well too. Now, I like just because a lot of our viewers sometimes like, and I'll speak for myself at least from this point of view, but a lot of people kind of just look for permission in a way to like do these creative things. Like a lot of your work involves working directly with the director, the cinematographer, to kind of negotiate if we can't get the lighting or the shot perfectly with the light. Is there is there room for adjustment of where we shoot the shot exactly so that you can hit those like lighting goals and such?
Yeah. Sometimes it's like if we want the frame to be this, but there's something in the way and we just have to make a little bit of a shift. So we might have to do that. We either sacrifice the frame or sacrifice the light. We have to kind of compromise somehow. And it's very like open communication, trying to make sure that we stay on the same page and try to get things how the director or the DOP wants it to look. So,
absolutely. So I really appreciate the 4x4 like gel there. That is essentially to bring the white light that's coming from the lights and to wash it more with. It looks like it's more of an orange color. Yeah. Like, was the goal to try to make it look like more natural light, the sun and all that?
So daylight is 5600 Kelvin, which is white light, and then 3200 Kelvin, we call it tungsten. It's just like the warmer light, like when you're thinking warm and cool, it's that's 3200 and 5600 is like the 2 points that generally most lights switch between if they're bicolor, and if it's just one color like a daylight, then you use orange. Or if you want it to be like extra cool, if you want it to be like more moody, or if you're trying to shoot like more of a night scene, then you put like a blue frame in front of it to just cool it down even more.
And just to break it down a little bit further for me, you mentioned that white light was 57 Kelvin?
5600.
5600, sorry, I'm totally way off. Like, could you break down like what's the measurement tool there a little bit?
Kelvin, it's a temperature, light temperature.
A light temperature. Okay, nice, interesting. Well, I find it so interesting because we actually talk a little bit more about lights and light temperature as well too in a previous feature with Seven Skies Astronomy. So if you folks haven't checked out that episode, be sure to check it out. Excellent. So that is fantastic. I think we're good to kind of move on as well too and see what else is kind of here. This one I've been very excited to kind of check out as well too because this has so much packed in it as well. I just want to delicately show our viewers here as well too. I love lizards, and it looks like you got actors and a lot of people working together as well right now. I'm probably going to steal the focus back so that I can just try to absorb as much as possible. But on the right-hand side, it looks like we have more of a close-up of the actor just kind of sitting down, laying about, and getting all all this like mixed juxtaposition of lighting as well too. Could you tell me a little bit about this project?
Okay, so this was a collaborative effort.
Yeah.
The goal was to have a number of characters get sucked into a TV.
Ooh.
And
It's like Jumanji or something like that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so it was for Abracadabras.
Okay.
Season 3, we just finished shooting in June.
Nice.
Actually, end of May. But it was originally a Telus Storyhive project from 2017, I believe.
Yep.
And they're on to season 3 now. They're doing
And still going,
fabulous. Yep, absolutely. And so we had to figure out how to get the shot where the camera is coming towards the TV and the actors are also coming towards the TV, and we're trying to mimic this whole like, you know, vortex getting sucked into the TV kind of a thing. So with this trolley that we had, we're trying to figure this out. I'm like, okay, well, we could use dolly track, but that's, you know, we're trying to rig this thing up. It wasn't really going to work. So yeah, we used this cart. I made the swivel wheels stop by putting some blocks in it, and then yeah, we used, I don't know, probably 6 cartolini clamps and a bunch of like C-stand arms and everything to get the colorful lights around. And then we used the dolly offset, which yeah, would just like the jib on the dolly, and then there's a 4-foot offset to get the camera further out.
Yeah.
We used that offset to actually just attach it to the cart.
Yeah.
And so that when you move the dolly, the cart with the lights and the actor moves as well. So
Yeah.
then, yeah, we had probably, I think there's 6 or 7 different actors that all at different times get sucked into this TV. And so what the character here, his name is Duggan, and he's just this frog creature.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we got to play with the lights and have the rainbow effect kind of swirling around.
Yeah, I was about to
them
say, to
as-
get that
as they're getting
vortex
pulled
feel.
in. Yeah.
Oh,
for
that's
sure.
so cool. That is
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah,
And
and like we had to figure this out in a like short amount of time.
Yeah.
And so myself, James the key grip, and Hunter the dolly grip, who was gaffing that day, the 3 of us and our DOP were just like crunching ideas, and then yeah, we rigged this up in like less than 30 minutes and made it work, and yeah, it was great.
that is an accomplishment statement right there as well.
Problem
too.
solving on the fly.
That is fantastic. I have really enjoyed kind of looking at what we have so far, and we still have way more to come and to go still as well too. I'm scrolling forward just to kind of check out some of the other photos, but we're going to keep those a little bit of a secret for now as well. I want to give another big shout out to Good Times Comedy Club once again for allowing us to film in this space. We couldn't have done this without you. Thanks so much, Charlie. I'm looking very forward to kind of delving into the next little secret where we look a little bit to that adaptability when it comes to actually rigging up a piece of equipment as well too. So for those of you that are tuning in onto the live stream, stay tuned as we have more coming in on this feature. For those that are tuning in onto YouTube or Telus Optic TV, thank you so much for watching. This has been the Windy City's Finest on location with Clark and Perry. I'm Clark. He's Perry. This has been
Charlie Christensen.
in these sets. I thought that was super cool, seeing some of that Abracadabras set as well too, and we still have more to come. What we have in front of us is just a bunch of gear, but before even that, thank you again once more to Good Times Comedy Club, featured right behind us, for offering us this space. Couldn't have done it without you. Excellent. Yeah, why don't you tell me a little bit about what we have in front of us? This is kind of like part of your like kit that you brought with yourself. So to me, I'm looking at this and I'm seeing like this is rigging 101, basically. And what we'll be featuring here a little bit later as we go ahead for a future segment of actually rigging it up and showing the practicality piece of that as well too. So we have some lights off to the side. Like, could you tell us a little bit about these? And
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're very, very cheap, basic lights. They're not going to, you know, like I said, light a stadium, but a little like 9-inch LED panel. They're bicolor and full RGB, so they switch between that 3200 and 5600 Kelvin for daylight.
Yep.
And then yeah, the full spectrum of RGB, so you can make the color purple or red or whatever you want.
Nice.
As well. So yeah, very lightweight, so you're not worrying too much about making it extremely safe, so it doesn't fall on anybody. And
Quite movable, yeah.
right? Yeah.
I see, just before we move any further, I see, what are these things here?
They're
This is
called-
definitely not part of the light, is it?
Barn doors.
Barn
Yeah.
doors.
So
Really?
yeah, they're just for like shaping light. If you need to, you know, cut it off from a certain ball or anything, you can just use the barn doors to either open it full or close off one half or what have you.
Oh, I see. So yeah, okay. Yeah. So you can really kind of, like as you say, kind of shape the light a little bit as well too,
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
with the
Yeah, and then like if you wanted to put like a piece of diffusion on it or anything like that, you can use a barn doors and clothespins or bulldogs or whatever to clamp on there and
Why do they call them barn doors?
I don't know, because
It's maybe the style that they get opened up or something
barn
like
doors are usually this way.
Oh yeah,
But not both.
Yeah.
And barn doors are usually close together instead of overlapping. But hey, there's a lot of names for a lot of things that are like, why is it called that?
I love it. And so you got obviously some power for like a number 1 and a number 2.
Yeah. So it switches between like AC, like when you can plug it into like a hardwire, or there's 2 ports on there for little batteries.
For batteries as well too. So this is okay. Nice, nice.
So if you have, you're going to shoot something and get it done within 30 minutes or whatever, then you pop the batteries on there. You can hide that light in anywhere. I even had it in like. Speaking of those westerns we were shooting, there's like an old like stove, and so there's like a fire flicker effect on there. So that light with batteries was just inside this thing. So the actor's sitting there stirring the coals, and the light is
flickering back at them as well too.
Effect on
That is so neat.
Yeah, very cool.
A lot of practical use as well too. Could you tell me, like briefly, if you do remember or not, that's okay. But like how much these things would typically be?
For the set of 2 is like $250.
Nice.
Yeah, super cheap.
A lot of utility comes from these guys as well. So that's that's really cool. And I'm sorry, I think I interrupted. You were grabbing this right here as well too. But
so there's different.
What do we have here?
These are safety chains, safety cables, what have you. And there's different weights. And so like I made these, and they're good for about 500 pounds before they break.
Yep.
Which these are definitely
not 500 pounds.
But you can get heavier gauge wire with bigger things for like the bigger lights if you're going to hang like a big aperture 600 up in the rafters or something. You want something good. But for my little DIY stuff, that's great. So like if anything fails and the light's gonna possibly fall, then there's something here to stop.
Right.
It, so,
and we'll be certainly using those when doing the rigging piece, because like each light will need some kind of safety chain in order to be secure there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I'd like to just ask a quick question as well too. Like I see that a couple of them have like the typical carabiners, but we have right here what seems to be just kind of a general loop. Like, could you talk to me a little bit about what this is and like how this is?
Well, I was at the hardware store going, okay, what do I need to make my own safety cables?
Yeah.
And I bought a few of these, and they're not super necessary because you either just loop the cable around on itself and compress that, or I had this just to this loop of cable is going to wear out over time, whereas this is going to
will protect that loop.
Kind of
okay,
thing.
Yeah. Awesome. So, like when it comes to safety cables and in its relation to lights, you said that these were viable for like around 500 pounds or so. What is that margin of safety typically that you use? Because I understand that like you wouldn't want to put like a 499 pound light with a 500 pound safety cable.
Well,
right?
and it's not 500 pounds of weight; it's 500 pounds of force. So that's significantly different.
That's right.
Like a 30-pound light, when it falls, gravity's going to tug on that, and the force that it's being exerted on it is going to either break it or not break it, kind of a thing.
Yeah, 100%.
So, like my safety harness when I'm high up, that's rated for like 3,200 pounds of force, where I'm only 180 pounds. So it's that kind of a thing. So you're not going to hang a 500-pound light.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Well, very good to know, and again, very humbling to understand that a lot of thought goes behind a lot of these cables and lights and such too. Awesome. Well, we have what else in front of us? Like we have these amazing like little C clamps, and what are these specifically called?
Yeah, this is not an on-brand thing, but we call them Cardellini clamps.
Cardellini clamps.
Yeah, so it's, you can mount it onto a C-stand and have an arm out here to hang one of those 4x4 gel frames in front of a light or something. You can have it on top of like a beam in there. You can hang them this way. You can do a lot of things. That rain rig that we were talking about, I use a couple
right.
of these to hold it in the place that I want and make adjustments, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, super versatile. That rig with dug in the lizard and the rainbow lights.
That's right.
We use these because the Titan tubes would go in there, and they have a fairly secure hold on them.
They are just naturally angled to kind of like really clamp down on like a pipe or anything that would fit in between there as well too. Now I want to notice one thing is that I see a difference between these, like this one I have and the one that you have. This one here is very rough on the side, whereas that one is very smooth and has like a black surface. Could you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's a brand thing.
Brand thing. Nice.
That's because of the grit on there. If you have it on a pipe, it's not gonna.
That makes
rotate.
sense. It's not going to easily slide around.
Yeah,
okay.
but you wouldn't want to use that type of a clamp for one of those Titan tubes because you wouldn't want to scratch at the surface of that or whatever. Whereas this is smooth, and you can use this for holding a light rather than clamping down to hold something else, kind of a thing. So,
Okay, that is really good. Really interesting stuff to kind of just keep in mind as well. And again, having one of each to just kind of work with that adaptability piece as well too, I think is, that's fantastic.
Yeah, for sure.
We've talked about tapes before when it comes to our stage management, but it looks like tape is a common theme here when it comes to rigging as well.
A grip or a gaffer's best friend. You use it for anything, even just like having to put diffusion or a gel on a window or what have you, even just like, later on when we get this going on, I'll probably use it to hang the sheet of unbleached muslin to drape under the lights to give a nice soft glow, kind of a thing.
While you had that in your hand, you called it muslin.
Yes.
Now, is that a specific type of fabric, or is that, okay, so could you talk to me a little bit about muslin versus like a cotton sheet, for example?
Yeah, I'm not super aware of the differences. I just know that, muslin is what filmmakers use quite a lot. There's unbleached, which this is, so it's just got more of a, like just that natural tone kind of a thing. Whereas bleached, it gives you a much more white light. So if you're using that for diffusion, then it's gonna, like if you're doing a daylight color, then the bleached is going to keep that color, where this is naturally going to give it like a warmer tone.
I was about to say, it might be related more to like the fiber count as well, so that you can still get a reasonable amount of light to shine through. Because for viewers who can't feel it like I'm feeling it right now, it feels a little bit like linen, like almost just a vague touch of linen almost, which is very interesting. So. Man, that's lovely. I was going to ask something directly more about the tape as well too. Now back, I used to watch a lot of Red and Green show, and duct tape was always the biggest thing that we would use and swear by. But I realized duct tape isn't much of the in much of the repertoire. It's more of the gaffer's tape as well.
So basic reason for that is duct tape is more of a permanent solution.
That's
whereas gaff tape is not going to peel paint off walls. It's sticky, it's strong, but there's just some kind of magic about it where you go to peel it off and it comes off without leaving most residue or whatever. Like, I mean, you can damage some things,
of course,
but it's strong, durable, easy to work with.
It's meant to be removed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a temporary tape. So,
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we have a classic C clamp as well. I don't have too many questions about this, as I feel like it's just a very big one.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's so I mean, I'm poor, so I can't afford the big ones that come with the posts welded to them, which are great because then all you need is a C clamp. But the widest this is going to go is 3.5 inches, where this can go across a big beam like that. So lock that up and then use this to attach to it.
Gotcha.
And,
no, very cool. We're gonna touch real briefly across, and I was saving it for the last bit because this is probably where I absolutely know nothing about it. But we have some more technical stuff kind of in front of us right here. We have let's start with this here.
Sure.
This looks like a fire hazard, if I'm honest.
If you used every single outlet, yes, that would be
absolutely
a fire hazard. But this is just easy storage. Cube taps, they're a filmmaker's best friend because everybody needs to charge their phone or plug in their laptop or what have you. So when you're running power for a set, these are essential.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
And they're
essential.
cube sets, you said?
Yeah, cube taps is
Cube
what we call
taps.
them. So you can tap into a line. There's 3 outlets per cube tap, and then I have this one where the ground is gone because sometimes you're finding older.
Yeah,
outlets,
that's right. Okay.
And you just have to be careful and considerate of what you're trying to run on something like that. So you're not going to run a hair dryer or what have you on
something that
just
requires a
line
lot
without
of
ground.
ampage, wattage.
Yeah,
all
for
that
sure.
such.
Yep. And then so attached to that is just this circuit tester, and this is just basic. If you're in an old house and you're like, is this gonna cause a fire? You plug it in. It's either going to tell you yes, there's power, no, there's no power. If there's an open ground or if the wires are crossed and there's a hazard there, it'll let you know just with the light combination.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this tells you, so you plug this in and it tells you if it's a good line or if it's not, if it's got power, and it kind of, I'm just reading this real quick. That's very interesting.
Right? Yeah.
Love it. That is so cool.
Yeah, it's very good.
But this is probably one of your newer tools.
Yeah, I just picked this up after the last production I was on. It's a circuit tracer.
Yeah.
And so the end of it doubles as one of these, where you can just use this to test your lines and see what's going on.
Yep.
However, if you're going into somebody's house and you have these don't draw very much, but if you have bigger lights, hot lights, old tungsten bulbs, or even just like some of the LEDs they're quite powerful. You plug this in and then you go to the breaker box, you use this, and you can identify which circuit each of the outlets are on.
Amazing.
So then you can have a couple of 1500 watt lights on separate circuits. And
well, immediately where my brain goes as well too is that, like you said, not tripping breakers, is that you're going to use the combination of this tool set here to kind of go and make sure that you're not getting close to overloading that certain breaker as well too. Because the last thing you want is having the perfect shot and then all of a sudden everything goes dark. That's crazy.
And I mean, the funny thing about film sets, most of the things that trip breakers are your big coffee maker, your hair dryer, your clothing steamer, that kind of thing. If they're ever set up on the same line as a couple of lights or anything, the end breakers are going to go. So
it's always like the household items I find, and it's not like the big wattage lights typically as well, which can be, kind of surprises you as well too. That is fantastic. I really appreciate kind of getting the sense of like all the different tools and kind of learning abilities that you can kind of like pick up as you go. So you just picked this up recently.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit of the progression? Like, say for example, I'm a new person getting into rigging. What are some of the quintessential tools that I would need in order to get?
Yeah, these Cardellini clamps.
Clamps.
They're very versatile,
Yeah.
very, very good. But some of the most basic things you're going to need, this might be loud,
That's okay.
is pony clamps.
Whoa!
And if you need to hang anything like that, picture of my truck.
Yeah.
All those furniture blankets that were giving us shade were all rigged up with, these. So they're typically...
And of varying sizes as well.
Yeah, so these we call number 1s because they're 1 inch. And then we've got number 2s and number 3s being...
3 inches there.
The big 3-inch ones. So
Amazing.
Most productions I've been on, they'll get like a dozen of them from the rental house.
Yeah.
And then I bring my 2 dozen and we still run out.
Amazing. And pony clamps, that's what you call them as well?
Yeah.
Interesting. That's really cool.
Yeah,
I really appreciate just kind of getting a sense of all the gear and the setup that it takes in order to, especially being paired up with the showcase. I'm hoping that our viewers are able to get more of that visualized picture, now seeing a little bit of the tools in front. Because I know I'm looking forward to seeing it more in action and again, kind of putting that through line into place as well too. Are any other thoughts that you have just before we kind of sign off on this segment?
I mean, being in the Grip LX side of things, problem solving is the biggest thing. So having an arsenal of things to help you solve problems is key.
Is key. And just allow that tool set to kind of grow and continually finding new things and working forward for that. Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Charlie. That's going to be all the time that we have for this segment here real quick. If you're tuning in onto the live stream, stay tuned because we're going to actually have a sit-down interview getting to know you and a little bit of your history in the past and all that and talking a little bit about that bio. For those of you that are tuning in onto the YouTube or Telus TV, thank you so much for watching. This has been the Windy City's Finest on location with Clark and Perry. I'm Clark.
He's Clark. This is
Charlie.
Inspiring the artist in you. Fantastic. And we're here to just do a kind of sit down interview with you, just get to know you and your journey up until now. And obviously film has been a big part of your life. And so I'm just curious, like, you know, what was kind of your first experience that you remember that really stuck in your mind revolving around film specifically?
Well, I think some of the things that inspired me to pursue it was, you know, being a little kid and, you know, a movie that was too scary for my age group to be watching, you know, like just that fear and like running out of the room in like Children of the Corn, or, you know, when I was 4, our babysitter let us watch Aliens, and I'm like, yeah, the like Newt and the Queen, and like this like image of just like that terror and that fear just like stuck with me, and then like I grew up to start making horror movies.
Yeah, I love that, because what I kind of hear in that is that idea of like, you know, how something artificial, essentially film, can evoke such a real feeling, you know, in people, even like, you know, once you're grown up, you know. I think that's the beauty of cinema. And then also that idea of like running towards the fear or the thing that scared
Right.
you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but I think that's really cool and neat. Yeah, do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, it's just like that it's almost like, you know, when you hear about a drug addict talking about their first hit, it's like that same, like all of that fear that I felt as a little kid. It's like that was such an impactful moment for me, that it's like trying to recreate that and you know, build that in something that I create to try to like give somebody else that hit, you know, that feeling, you know. It's much safer and healthier than drugs, but it's the same impact on your like emotional body kind of thing, so.
Absolutely. No, yeah, you know, being from theater, you know, getting bitten by that bug, as it were, you know, and I just love that kind of translates to film, and I'm sure many artistic mediums for sure. And well, I'm also hearing that kind of like, it's kind of like, I think of art and like storytelling, film, theater as like an act of service in a lot of ways, because you're serving the story, the characters, you're serving the people on your team that you're making the thing with or performing, and ultimately the audience, you know. And I know that I'm just curious as to what your like love language is, because I know from submitting the questions before, I feel like there's maybe a bit of a link there.
Yeah, and I've always found that like being of service is my love language, outward love language. And, you know, whether it's, you know, helping my kids do this, or like working in my community and helping people out, but that style of love language works really well in film, because the best teams that have come together that I've worked with is everybody that is there not there for themselves. They're there for the team, the experience, that kind of a thing. So being of service is just absolutely essential on a film crew. I don't know why, but it makes me think of like hot potato, but it's not like because you don't want it yourself. It's like because it's like a helpful potato. He's like, let me help. Like, Cool.
Are there any specific stories around like being on sets? Like you say, like that's kind of those have been your best experiences, it sounds like. Are there any specific stories or instances of like somebody just brings you coffees or Timbits or like,
so, I mean, something just popped into my head. I haven't thought about this for a little while, but we were shooting on location at Jura Creek in Kananaskis, and pretty sketchy, pretty dangerous, but myself and the swing grip on that day, he was like an avid rock climber, and I'm very nimble, and being an exteriors trades guy and ladders all the time, like I'm very comfortable on my feet. So a lot of the rest of the crew, they're not very comfortable. So myself and the other guy who was a mountain climber, we kind of stood down. It was in between the cliff of death and the set, so we kind of just like were there as supports for all these people that weren't confident on their feet and in their footing and everything like that. So just like, you know, being present and watchful and like being of service in that regard to just help people feel comfortable, because you know, like I'm of the mind that like, you know, being a filmmaker, it's about passion. It's about like, you know, anything for independent cinema.
Yeah.
Whereas everyone else is like, oh, I don't like this job right now because I'm scared. You know, that kind of thing is just like helping people feel more comfortable kind of thing. You know?
And I love that. I was part of a workshop and they kind of pointed out to me the irony of independent film because it's not at all an independent endeavor. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's very
absolutely.
much a team ensemble.
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
so,
Yeah, I might get this made up for my tailgate of my truck, but my favorite quote is from Orson Welles, and an artist needs a brush, a writer needs a pen, but a filmmaker needs an army.
oh
And
yes,
it's
they
just,
do.
it's so true, right? It's
Yeah.
a team effort. You can make a film by yourself, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah, a lot of work. Yeah. No, awesome. And I think that's kind of where part of the joy comes from, maybe. Is just
Absolutely.
getting to work with other people, like in any other industry. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's a big part of it. So, right on. I think another question, maybe along some, not the same line, but going a bit deeper, would just be like, what has been like a significant role model in your life? And I don't know, maybe that could even be like from a film or something. But yeah.
Yeah, I find that just over the last 20 years, it's been like members in my community that are just, helpful or forward thinking. In the film community, it's like, some people that just inspire me because of like their creative vision or how they work or whatever. But yeah, I find that like my peer group is a big source of inspiration. Just, surrounding myself with like-minded individuals that, might know a bit more about filmmaking than I do or whatever. And it's just like we kind of like learn and grow and build together. And like I take inspiration from that and try to apply into, my art and create that, just that inspiration through those connections.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love how accessible that is. That it's your peer group and because a lot of people will say like family and stuff and you're kind of stuck with them regardless. But I love that kind of autonomy in your peer group and that put your energy where it's valued, I guess. So yeah, that's awesome. And if we were to go down that other path there of like films and more in a more cinematic sense, any influences there that you could speak of?
Yeah, I've really grown to love pretty much anything John Carpenter has ever made. I watched Halloween as a teenager, and it was just like, such a basic horror movie concept. And I saw The Thing when I was too young to watch it, and loved that. And then grew into just like a big John Carpenter fan. And I also played music, and knowing that John Carpenter does the music for most of his films is really inspiring. Like just like the score, it sounds like a rock and roll band. It's like, oh no, it's just John Carpenter and a buddy making music.
I love that. Yeah, like the versatility and multidisciplinary kind of intersecting. And I'm kind of hearing that in your finding peers who maybe know more about certain things than you do, and just trusting in that and relying on that is kind of a connection I'm making.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, right on. And then, what would you say that people learn about you with time? If they just spent more time with you, what might they learn about you?
Well, I'm a good problem solver.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, very resourceful, and just kind of tend to think outside the box. And I have a positive outlook on life, and people tend to like working with me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, right on. And where do you think that positive outlook comes from? Is it from because I know for myself, I do believe personally in that idea of like, you have to go through some hard stuff in order to understand that and maybe choose to have a positive outlook. I don't know if that's your opinion.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I didn't have a gravy childhood or anything like that. Like there was some hardships and some, I think my resourcefulness and problem solving definitely came from figuring things out as a kid on my own, because there wasn't a lot of reliable parenting happening kind of thing. Like I was fed and housed, but I mean everything else I kind of had to figure out on my own kind of a thing, and that I think that definitely has translated into being a resourceful person as an adult.
No, and what I'm hearing is that idea of being resourceful for yourself, but then I feel like in cinema, maybe kind of being able to utilize that for others. I think that's really beautiful, for sure. Yeah, that's awesome. And kind of along those lines, so like, how do you cope when things do get tough? Because things get tough for everybody. So, you know, like at this time in your life, like, yeah, how do you cope when things get tough?
Yeah, generally, just losing myself in, you know, a video game or binging a TV series or something like that. And, you know, I get like, when the story of my life is just kind of like, I don't really want to think about that right now, I get swept up in different stories. You know, like, you know, like the world we live in now is so accessible for binging storytelling. You don't have to wait a week and sit through commercials when you watch something. So you can just get lost in the story, and it's a fictional thing. But I think the beauty of storytelling is finding like a relatable part of a character's journey or something like that, and just like witnessing somebody else's process or somebody else's journey or whatever. And yeah, that's a big part of what I do when I'm getting overwhelmed, is I'll just jump into a story.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And are there any specific examples that come to mind, like any favorite games or TV shows like recently that you've had the chance to?
One of the most creative and interesting stories that I have experienced over the last couple of years is a video game, Horizon Zero Dawn. Okay. It takes place 1,000 years from now, and it's just like the whole journey through the game. You're trying to uncover the mysteries of what happened to civilization 1,000 years ago and why the world is the way it is now, kind of a thing. And it's very, very, like, it's full of mystery and intrigue, and, you know, the gameplay is a lot of fun too, so it's easy to just lose yourself for hours and hours. But the story in that game is just unique and incredible, and science fiction, and very good.
No, that's so cool. And before we go to the flip side of, like, you know, when life's running smoothly, one more question on that would just be like, is that more of a solitary thing for you, or do you still try to find community in like either games or watching film and cinema, or
the gaming side of things, when it's just like, okay, I need to turn my brain off and do that, it's a very solo thing. It's just kind of, you know, sitting by myself. But that's not very satisfying, you know. So like, my oldest son is, you know, he's 18 now. So the last 5 years, we've been watching a lot of like movies together and that kind of thing, and like sharing an experience or sharing stories with people and having that experience so you can like talk about what you just witnessed and like process that kind of thing is, I love that. I think that's really, really good. Like, you know, stories are meant to be shared. So.
Not only like telling somebody, but also in the reception of it. And I just love that you get to do that with your kid. That's awesome. Right? Yeah. And on the flip side, and maybe that's part of it, but it's how do you celebrate when life's running smoothly?
It's you know, prior to COVID, I would love to have a potluck or a gathering at my house and just like invite people over, and that's a big part of just part of who I have been in the past, is like opening my home to have gatherings and bring people together. So that's what I like to do.
Kind of gathering people, that peer group that you mentioned. Just spending time, it sounds like.
Right. And so that's why some of my favorite things are like our monthly meetup for lifts. It's just like, hey, just get together with people and chat about life or film or whatever, and
nice. So that's awesome. That's really cool. And I think we kind of toward the end of our segment here, one of my last questions, I think, would just be around like, do you have any other like interests or hobbies, or is it kind of like your work is your passion, your interest? Is there anything else that comes to mind?
Well, I think growing up poor kind of put me into a path of like, you don't throw it out, you try to fix it first. And so that's kind of turned into a hobby of just like, trying to fix things, or trying to learn how to solder to fix a broken toy or that kind of thing. So I have a basement workshop, and if I have spare time, then I sit down there and I tinker and I build things or fix things, or, you know, it kind of goes hand in hand with creative rigging on set. It's like, how am I going to make that work? I don't know, but I'll figure it out. You know?
I love that, and it kind of speaks to that resourcefulness that you've kind of mentioned a few times. Absolutely. And any other thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I built a treehouse during COVID.
Right
with
on.
no plan, no blueprint, just like, I have some stuff. I'm gonna put a house together, and it's great.
Nice. Yes.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. You got to use your skills in your kind of work for yourself and
Yeah.
for your own.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Yeah. My very last question. I don't know why this popped into my head, but do you have any pets?
I have 2 goldfish.
2 goldfish. I love it. Do they have names?
They had names. I don't remember what they are. I inherited them from my sister because she moved into a place where it was just not functional, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I can take care of these fish.
Mm-hmm.
And Sunshine and something, I can't remember.
Well, shout out to Sunshine and something. I love it. No, right on. I think that's all the time we have for this segment. So thank you so much for meeting with us and sharing. This has been so awesome, and I'm super excited to see what we've got next. So if you're tuning into the live stream, stay tuned. If you're watching on YouTube or Telus Optic TV, then thank you for watching. This has been the Windy City's Finest, on location with Clark and Perry. I'm Perry, he's Clark, this is
Charlie. Shout out to Good Time.
you. Awesome. And I believe we have some more questions here, kind of spot the lie, little mini game going on here. So I'm actually going to throw it to Clark to throw us our first question here.
That's right, and thank you so much, Perry. I'm very excited to kind of delve into these. As I found out earlier, Charlie is a clever fox. We decided to start throwing you some odd questions as well too. So Perry, you're going to be the first one here. So the first question, or the first challenge of spotting the lie is, number 1, went to the Lethbridge College for multimedia. Number 2, permaculture design certificate they currently own. Number 3, took an online class at Red Deer College for animation.
Ooh, okay. I'm pretty sure, like 98% sure you went to the college for new media. The last one was a class in
Took an online class at Red Deer College for animation.
Ooh, online seems pretty feasible. And then the permaculture
Design certificate.
Permaculture design certificate. Oh, it's not giving me anything. I'm gonna go with the perma design as the lie. What? So it must have been the online class.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Can you tell me about the perma design thing first?
Sure. Yeah.
Certificate?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back in 2010, I took a weekend workshop on permaculture, and I was like, oh, this is incredible. I need to learn more. So I took what's called a 4 Seasons permaculture design certificate course. The certificate is 72 hours, and so this one was broken up over 4 seasons. So it was like spring weekend, summer weekend, fall weekend, winter weekend, and permaculture is like a system for observing nature and trying to mimic and duplicate the systems that are found in nature, where as humans we extract, we refine, we use, and we discard.
Right.
Where nature is just like, there is no end. There is a closed loop. So we're trying to close the loop on things, like just gardening practice, like a simple chop and drop kind of a thing, where instead of trying to remove roots and throw things out, you just chop it all up and let it all fall. So soil builds there. It's just like you look into the way a forest is built. It's like leaves are falling every year and decomposing in place, and the rich soil there is over generations of decomposition.
Yeah.
So you try to mimic that in your garden, or via using watering systems. You're collecting your rainwater, sending it into a swale, which is just like a level surface where the water will stay, and then if you plant on the berms up beside that, then the plants naturally find the water. And so it's like, if the idea of a permaculture garden at your home is a lot of effort at first and then barely any afterwards, because once you design it and implement it, then you just let nature take its course.
Right. Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Yeah. No, and I the thing that was running through my mind during that whole explanation was resourcefulness. You know what I mean? Just and I love that idea of actually observing nature and learning from nature, as opposed to kind of disregarding it. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And do you have any examples of that in your own garden yet, or have yet to put it into practice? Or
Yeah, so there's something called a Hugelmound, which
Yeah.
is like a German word, but you essentially put like big logs and then little chips of wood, and you cover it with soil, and you plant on top of that. And over time, all that wood in there is going to decompose into biomass and nutrients for the plants. In my yard, before I had moved in, there was a big tree that was uprooted and taken out, so there's just a big hole in the ground. So I was like, oh, well, instead of a Hugel mound, I just made a Hugel pit. So I filled it full of logs and wood chips and everything like that. And now my eaves trough on the south side of my house drains into that underground, so all the water sits there and then gets absorbed that. So everything that's planted on top, it encourages root growth so that the roots go deeper to find the water. And then, instead of watering on top and worrying about evaporation, all the water is going underground and is readily available for the plants.
yes,
Yeah.
I love that. Oh my gosh, the more you know. And I also love that it's like 4 seasons, and just how that maybe pertains to like southern Alberta and just like our climate here. Like, is there anything you can speak to on that? Or?
Yeah, it's windy here.
It's windy.
Yeah, so I think over the 4 seasons, like before you plant anything in your yard, you want to spend a year observing where the water collects, where like this, like, spring sun, summer sun, winter sun, where things go, and like do a lot of documentation and observation, and then implement after that kind of a thing. So knowing how some plants, how long it takes them to germinate in the spring, their growing time, what happens to them in the fall, and knowing that, so you can think ahead, kind of a thing. Yeah. So.
I love that.
Yeah. Another thing that's really cool about permaculture is that there's a social permaculture aspect to it.
Right.
So how do we function as natural beings?
Yeah.
And collecting in groups and this kind of that kind of a thing. So like we spent a whole weekend talking about social permaculture and what that means for yourself and your community, and in case of emergency, what skills and resources do you have, and your neighbors, and all this kind of a thing. So yeah, it was really, really fascinating.
Yeah, and I love that because it's just harkening back to like our sit-down interview with you and talking about community and peer groups, and I just love that that's like another avenue that you've been able to like find that, That's really cool. And then I know that you went to the college for new media?
Multimedia.
Multimedia. Is there anything you want to share about that?
Well, yeah, it was great. I was kind of the old guy because I didn't go to college until I was in my mid-30s, and lots of other people were significantly younger than me.
For sure.
So I related more to the instructors than I did to my peers, but it was just a really good environment to learn. And being a filmmaker, going into the multimedia production side of things, there wasn't a whole bunch of things that I was really interested in, but the act of going and learning was very valuable.
Right.
And then towards the end of that, I had to do an internship. So I had an instructor who, outside of teaching, her and her husband run a video game company. So they build like 3D or virtual reality games.
Right.
And so she had a really good understanding of Unreal Engine, and she knew I was a filmmaker. So she built an internship for me to explore using Unreal Engine for virtual production. And so that was a really interesting thing where I converted my basement into a studio space.
Right.
And then after the internship was over, her and another instructor applied for a CAREF grant from the college, like an internal research grant.
Yeah.
So I got to further expand on that and shoot a short film using like a traditional style where you have a location and you do all that kind of thing, and then shoot part of it in the virtual production side of things. So I got to use the green screen at the college rather than my tiny little hole in the basement, and try to shoot a segment of the film using Unreal Engine. So the actors came in and we had just like a rug and a lamp as practical that they were standing on, and they were up against a green screen. But the way Unreal Engine works with their system is we had a monitor that the actors could look at, and they could see themselves in real time what the environment looked like. So we had like a whole mocked up set that they got to see in real time, and then we learned a lot and made a lot of mistakes, and
Wow.
Yeah, it was really good.
That sounds amazing. And the online course, is that something you're interested in? Or?
Yeah, while I was in multimedia, I really liked animation, and then the Red Deer College has I think it's like a 4-year program or something, and they didn't have anything online at that time.
Right.
So I was like, oh, if it was online, I could do that, but I'm not going to Red Deer for 4 years.
No, for sure. So awesome. No, very cool. That's awesome. Oh my gosh. I got it wrong. You got me there. No, that's totally fair. I'll throw it back to Clark here for an excellent. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, currently the score is 1-0. Well, back to Charlie. Here we go. We got some questions for you in regards to Dan, or Perry, excuse me. Excellent. So the first one being, number 1, his favorite color is green. Ooh.
Oh.
To yourself.
Are we color brothers?
Number 2, Perry owns a pet frog. Number 3, he was born in England, UK.
That's a tough one.
It is.
If your favorite color is green and you have a green frog, yeah. And now I'm trying to think back to party time days. I'm like, did I know this about you, that you were born in the UK, or am I just creating things in my head?
Ooh.
I'm gonna go with you don't have a pet frog.
That is correct. Yes, it remains 1-0. Yes, very well done, sir. Yeah, and I don't think I would ever have a pet frog. It's just a personal choice. Being from the UK, it's a lot more damp there, and there are a lot more frogs just outside chilling. You know, snails,
you don't
all
need
that
a
stuff.
pet. You've got
Yeah.
nature. Awesome.
Awesome. I'll throw it back to you, Clark.
Excellent. Okay, well, back to you there, Perry. This is going to be questions about Charlie. So, number 1, In the Mouth of Madness by John Carpenter is one of their favorite movies. Was a Mac guy for the longest time, but because of a dropped deal that Apple had with a particular graphics card, PC has become the main choice. And number 3, Charlie hated the ending of Game of Thrones.
You wouldn't be alone there, I don't think. So that could be true, but we talked about John Carpenter, so I feel like that is true. And then a Mac, from what I know about you, I might be cheating a little bit here, working with you outside of this context, but I do believe you used to have a Mac or use it in some way, but I think that's true, so I'm gonna go with the Game of Thrones is the lie.
I was okay with the ending. It was a
Yeah.
little contrived, but I was like, that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be king. It's fine.
Yeah.
Daenerys had madness in her bloodline, so I guess it could switch that quick. I guess.
At any point. No, there's a lot of trauma in that show.
Yeah.
So, like, you know what I mean? People are just doing their best, I think, at that point.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it wasn't great, but it was fine.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. No, very cool. And the PC to Mac, do you think you would ever go back at any point? Like, where's your allegiance?
Like, there are a lot of things that I still really like about Mac.
Yeah.
Even just like having a laptop and the trackpad, like the functionality of it is just so much more intuitive than PC trackpads and whatever, and just like the operating system. It's like I know where to find info about the computer a lot more easily than I do on PC. Like I find I'm constantly Google searching, how do I do this on a PC? Whereas a Mac, it was just like I used it for so long that it was just like I didn't have to ask anybody. I just knew. So I wouldn't mind switching back one day, but at this point, PCs are pretty cheap compared to the power of a Mac.
Sure. Resourcefulness, you know what I mean?
Right.
Work within your means and all that stuff.
Right.
So, no, right on. Very cool.
Yeah, but it was because I dumped a pile of money on a graphics card, and it worked in my Mac great until 2018 or something, and I was like, I can't update the operating system, so I can't update my DaVinci Resolve. I need to switch to PC. So I bought a PC, put the graphics card in there, and now I'm on a PC.
No, right on. Fair enough. Awesome. I'm going to throw it back to you, Clark, for our next question.
Excellent. This is back to you, Charlie, about Perry. So, number 1, they've been to Portugal. Number 2, they eat bell peppers raw like apples. And number 3, he did karaoke or karate for a few years.
You do karaoke for sure.
Yeah, without a doubt.
I almost feel like we've had a conversation about the peppers before, because I also will eat a bell pepper.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I find that like you have to have, skin on either side of your teeth, because if you eat like you bite into the flesh, it just shoots everywhere. But if you fold it in half or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that's true, unless I'm thinking of somebody else that I had a conversation about eating a bell pepper like an apple with. I'm gonna. You're a well-traveled person, so I think the Portugal thing seems like a reality.
Decisions.
Yeah, I'm just gonna take a gamble and say that you haven't done karate.
I have done karate. I did karate for several years.
Oh wow! Nice.
Before we immigrated.
Good to know.
Yeah. Before we immigrated, I got to like brown belt plus some.
Nice.
And then we immigrated to Canada. Being from the UK, I think that a lot of people from the UK, I don't know about now, but you would go to Spain and Portugal in the same way that people here would go to like Mexico and stuff to get like some sun.
Right.
So I have been to Portugal as well.
So you don't eat.
I do not eat bell peppers. That was somebody else that you had that conversation.
So you take a bell pepper and you just eat around the core and throw it out. And
eat around the core, and then you can put the core in the mound, Hugel mound. I don't know. I tried to make a connection, but
throw it into the compost heap. Yeah, for sure.
No, right on. Awesome.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. I think that is all the time that we have. What was the score at the end of that?
It officially is now tied.
It's a tied. Nicely done, my friend.
Excellent.
And on that note, I think that is all the time we have for this segment. So again, if you're tuned into the live stream, stay tuned. If you're watching on Telus Optic TV or YouTube, thank you for watching. This has been the Windy City's Finest, on location with Clark and Perry. I'm Perry. He's Clark. This is
Charlie.
And this is Good Times. Thank you so much for having us.
Hello and welcome everybody once again to the Windy City's Finest, on location with Clark and Perry. I'm Clark. He's Perry. This has been
Charlie.
Inspiring the artist in you. Awesome. Thank you so much for, again, joining us, showing everything when it comes to practicality. As our viewers can likely see, we have a laptop. Again. We're going to be showing off a little bit of the secondary showcase in regards to some other practical sets that you've had a chance, and maybe give a little bit of a hint of what we'll be doing next. During the next rigging segment as well too. So what we have in front of us right now is more of a classroom setup, and we have a little bit of a teaser trailer going on when it comes to the next photo. I'm going to try to just full screen this so we can get, perfect. Now we got both images. Perfect. So we have a classroom set up off to our left here, as I'm going to show off for our viewers, and then to the right-hand side, we kind of have like this board up in a drop-down ceiling stuff. I'm assuming this is part of the same project, but could you help talk about what we see here?
So it was a scene in a short film with some students just meeting at the window, chatting a little bit about the story, the plot, whatever was happening there. So I needed a key and a fill for both actors, and then just a room opener light in the corner, and the camera was going to see about 270 degrees of the classroom. So with T-bar ceiling, you can get these little scissor clamps that will lock onto that you can hang a light on, but that, A, I don't have any, and B, that would put the light lower than the height of the ceiling.
Right.
So what I was able to do was open up the drop-down ceiling and find supports up above to clamp the lights and bring them down just to the ceiling level, and then run all the cabling through the ceiling itself so that it could come down in a spot that wasn't going to be on camera.
So it was nice and hidden and everything.
So everything was just up in the ceiling, no stands were needed, anything like that. And then the two lights that we showed earlier are hanging there, so very, very light, and so they're easy to just clamp up there. But the other light, the Aperture 300D, is
that we see there. Okay.
Yeah, it's heavy. It's 15, 18 pounds, something like that. So I was able to use a little spud plate to screw to a 2x4, and that 2x4 spanned across the beams up inside the ceiling.
To secure itself there and make
Yeah.
sure it wasn't going to drop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then that's attached there, and then safety cable is run through the yoke of the light and then up around the board, so that if any of the mechanisms failed and the light fell, then it would,
Catch on the board
catch.
and
Exactly,
the main
right?
securing
Yeah,
piece.
so-
Interesting. So, like, just to kind of back up a little bit, you mentioned T-board ceilings or something like that. Could you
T-bar.
explain a little bit?
So the drop down ceiling is made with a bunch of T-bar. It's
Right.
It's upside down T's. So like each panel sits in that. So when you lift it up and move it over, there's a little like piece of metal.
Just
that's
90
shaped like
degree
a T.
angles.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and so the scissor clamps that I'm talking about, they just have a 5/8 post on it that, it'll like close in on the bar. It's like the flat bar itself. So if you have like a lightweight thing that you want to put up there, whether it's a gel frame or a tube or these small little lights that I have, you can use that. But again, it was such a wide shot that we couldn't have the lights hanging lower than the ceiling, so they're just at that.
At that
ceiling
level,
line.
just to kind of give the wash that you need, and then not be visible to in the shot. Okay,
Absolutely.
perfect. And you mentioned there was key light, and then there was one other one that you mentioned as well too.
Yeah,
What
it's at a
was-
key and a fill. So like
a
a
fill.
key is like the main light, and a fill just kind of like fills in the rest. And then like there's backlight, which we didn't have that because we had the window there that was kind of backlighting everybody. And then a room opener, so just a light that was just kind of shining into the corner to like bounce the light throughout the room to just bring up the level of the room overall.
Yeah. So and just to kind of help like explain it into my head and for our viewers' sake as well too, the key light is, say for example, that like light source, like say the sun or whatever that might be offset. Is that analogy appropriate, or how would you put it
Yeah,
towards?
sort of like, I mean, typically when something is amplifying a real source,
Right.
like it might be your key light, it might be your fill light. It depends on where you have everybody framed in the blocking of the scene. Kind of
Gotcha.
a thing. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay, nice.
Key, fill, and backlight. That's like the 3-point lighting system kind of a thing. But
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So yeah, moving on. I think we have some amazing other photos as well too. A perfect representation of what we were just doing before in the previous showcase, talking about the tools. Is we have the I want to call them the Cicero clamps, but that's not the name. What are they called?
Cardellini.
Cardellini. That's right. I need to start. Macaroni. Cardellini. There we
Right?
go.
Yeah. So this is an example of problem solving 101.
No
This was
kidding.
The corner of a log cabin where all the action was right underneath of it, and there was nothing to attach to. And the DOP is like, "I have a challenge for you. I need you to get a light up in this corner somehow." And I'm like, "Okay. Excellent. I'm looking for something to do anyway." And so, the luck that I was granted here was that there was a little gap in between two of the logs. So I was able to use 2 wedges to give me something to clamp to.
Yeah.
And so then I have the Cardellini on there, and then this gobo head, like a C-stand arm, clamped to the post, and then the light comes up over there. And then you don't want to really trust the weight of that. So I sneakily put a screw into the top of the log so that I could safety chain from the light to that, so that the weight was offset, so that the arm wasn't holding everything. Because I mean, those 2 wedges that are in there, they're tapped in with a hammer, but you wouldn't want to risk the safety of an actor to just like, oh, it's fine. So yeah, it was there was
Absolutely.
2 points of contact. One was the clamp on the wedges, and then the safety cable to a little hidden screw up in there. So.
Yeah, so not pictured right here for sure, but no, I really appreciate that safety aspect of things as well too. Like, I mean, I would like to say that every lighting fixture that you've been able to do, it always, especially when it comes to a professional set, always needs that safety chain as well too, right? How long has that been like a practice typically? Because I feel like, I mean, I'm only purely speculating here, but like I feel like not all independent film sets have all this like setup and prep, but they're also used to like typically going from the tripod setup to then they start adding lights that are up and above. So could you explain to me a little bit of that transition from maybe where you started to where you're at now?
Well, for me personally, safety wasn't ever
in my mind.
Yeah.
It was just like, we need to get
The
this shot
compulsory like a seatbelt thing. I kind of figured. I was like, when did the click happen?
Yeah. Well, and like being a trades guy and working in that and having to deal with, you know, OH&S regulations and all that kind of stuff, safety became part of my life. You know, when I was in my early 20s, when I first started filmmaking, I was like, oh, by any means necessary, let's figure this out. Oh, we got to stand in water while we hold this light. Oh, that's probably not safe. Should we do that? You know, now there's a lot more that goes into making sure other people are safe. Because I mean, my own personal safety is like, I, as a sovereign being, will take a risk, whereas I don't want to put that risk on somebody else without their consent or whatever.
Absolutely.
So making sure everything is safe, you know, your power is safe, your overhead rigging is, you know, there's a, you know, a backup in case of, and then, you know, sometimes there's a secondary backup just because you never know. And like 99% of the time, you never need them. However, you don't want to land in that 1% where you should have. Right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I really appreciate touching on that as well too. So, we have more to show as well. So if I skip over to the next two shows, excellent. We have some like more impractical grips on things as well too, and it looks like we have one of the lights
I guess
as well.
the third photo from the last two, that just shows the safety cable and the screw that I put into the wall
There it is.
to hold the light itself. I mean, it's a very lightweight light. But yeah, just having that screw with the safety cable attached to it.
The extra hookup as well too, and to kind of fully explain that story there as well too. So on the right hand side, it looks like we got a clamp on an umbrella piece.
So
why don't you tell me about that?
It was raining, and I thought, hey, you know, these lights say they're waterproof, but let's not take that risk. So I rigged up a Cardellini clamp onto the post, and then had an arm out with another Cardellini holding an umbrella so that the light itself was protected from the rain.
Amazing. So just like something that maybe people probably, like, again, it's just that creative thinking as well too. Like, you got the equipment, you might as well use it as well too. And sometimes if you don't want to grab it yourself, that's what humanity built these machines for, and equipment and all that stuff too. That's lovely. So yeah, like you mentioned, I'd like to explore a little bit. Like, you did mention that the lighting is typically waterproof, but not wanting to take that risk, I totally understand. What are some other weather things that you might need to consider?
Wind. Absolutely, it's the biggest hindrance to setting up something safely. Which is such a challenging thing to think of in our windy area here.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, learning how to tie like a bow line or like a trucker's hitch or like all these terms for different knots is crucial. Like, especially when you're talking about like an 8x or a 12x bounce or some sort of frame. If you have to set that up, you could put it on the stands and put tons of sandbags on it so the stands are fine, but it's a big sail, and we get pretty strong winds here. So
unpredictable as well too.
Exactly,
so,
right? Yeah, it can just turn on like that. So having ropes attached to the frames and then pulling those tight so that it can't fall this way, and then you have one countering that on the other side so it can't go that way. And knot tying is definitely a skill that I have developed over the last few years.
Out of necessity as well, I can understand. But that's very good. I'm glad that we touched on that. Oh, perfect. And then we see like number 2 of the photo as well too, of the umbrella. I really appreciate that being there as well too. It seems like, could you just comment a little bit when it comes to that particular set? It looks like the light is shining towards, and I might just steal the focus again from our viewers, but it looks like the light is shining more focused towards this like whitewash.
So
could you talk about that?
It was an interior scene. And so outside we had a strip of diffusion over the window, and then this light here. And if I'm not mistaken, it was a nighttime scene. So this was trying to give like a moonlight kind of a feel. So the light is, I think it's even brighter than 5600. It might even be 6000 or something.
Right.
To give it that really, really white light. And then I believe in front of the diffusion was a CTB frame, a corrected blue frame. So to give that blue light wash, to give that moonlight feel inside. So that's what we were doing there.
Nice. Okay. So you had that outside to kind of give that wash as well. Okay. That's Again, this is all. I really appreciate this because this is all behind the scenes movie magic of how the image is actually sold. Because like the job is essentially just to try to make the least amount of work when it comes to post edits. Is that right?
Yeah.
So just helping with the colors and working on the wash is like, don't get me wrong, there is only so much you can fix in post, but I think it's a really great testament to how much work goes into preparing for that post-production process as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, back in the days of film, you had to know this. You absolutely had to know. Your film stock mattered, your exposure mattered, the color temperature, it all mattered, because once you roll on that film, that's what it looks like. It's you might be able to treat it chemically post-production and get a different look, but you better know what you're getting into at the start. Like, there's a lot more math and science behind setting up a camera. But now in the digital age, it's like, oh, you can see what a certain lot looks like. You can do all this stuff in real time right now. But I think there's value in retaining that old world history and like understanding of color science and temperature and all that kind of stuff with the camera. So
this is not a question that we've asked yet so far. Are you more of a, like, when it comes to your filmmaking style and all that, are you more of a fan of practical effects, or do you appreciate more of the flexible options that like CGI or like the post-production process can bring?
Yeah, depending on the genre. Like if we're doing horror, I'm all about practical effects. I have a soft spot for all practical effects, whether it's like that lighting, flicker, fire thing, like doing things practically so that you don't have to enhance it with CGI is definitely where my heart lies. Yeah. But if I'm going to shoot a science fiction or something and like can really lean heavily into what you can do nowadays with post production, then I might want to try that. Yeah. No, that's lovely. I really appreciate touching on that too. I want to also give justice the amount of what people will typically think of when it comes to a typical film set. We have the picture on the right, like honestly, a whole amalgamation of different like elements and structures as well too, all centered on a chair. Yep. So this was a corporate video shoot. And, nice. Just trying to give that like big depth to the image with the right light and shadows on the subject and the right light and shadows on the background and certain elements that want to be highlighted or whatever. So yeah, I think there's probably 6 different 300Ds in that, and then all the negative fill and flops and bounces and could you diffusion. Yeah, could you tell me a little bit about the black curtains to the side as well too? Like what is that helping out with? So in that room, you'll notice the ceiling and the walls are white. And that's going to bounce light everywhere. So all the black fabric is there to absorb the light so it doesn't bounce. So it creates more just dynamic imagery. So yeah, definitely with a negative fill, we call it, you're going to just accent the certain sides of the face, because instead of having light bounce from both sides so that it's just kind of a flat image, then adding more shadows with cutting light. And you can, I see that one is kind of being used almost as those barn doors that we kind of explored with one of the other lights, and it's almost in a way like the outside ones are more of a covering more of that ambient light for that white room as well too. No, that is fantastic. Well, this is so great as well. I'm very excited to still dive into the much anticipated rigging part of the segment as well too. I think that's what we have coming up next. So for folks that are tuning in onto the live stream, stay tuned because we still got more to come. Thank you again to Good Times Comedy Club for allowing us the space to film here. We couldn't have done it without you folks as well too. For those that are tuning in to the YouTube or Telus Optic TV, thank you so much for watching. This has been the Windy City's finest, on location with Clark and Perry. I'm Clark, he's Perry, this has been Charlie. Inspiring the artist in you. Oh wait, it's not that. Oh well. I just my brain's a little frazzled right now just because I've been looking very forward to this part of the segment right here. We're actually going to be showing off a little bit of the rigging piece in more of a practical setting as well too. Yeah, absolutely. So broad strokes here real quickly, Charlie. Could you explain to me a little bit about what we'll be doing? So we're going to take the set that we've been sitting at, and instead of having the harsh, hot lights on our faces, we're going to make it a little more cozy with like an ambient top light. Nice, nice. It kind of getting that like warm and more comfortable feel as well too. Yeah, excellent. Right. So I know, like, so for pre-setup for our viewers that are just curious, oh, I bet they staged a bunch of this stuff. We did. We have right now a current line to power that we just ran just above us, clipped with these lovely, I want to call them horse clamps. Close. Pony clamps.
Pony clamps. There we go. There we go. I knew I had them in my
You were
brain
close,
somewhere.
yeah,
But
equestrian.
yeah, of course, just from the pony clamps, just kind of being secured up and above. So I'm curious, like, what's the next steps? What do we do next?
The next step is to take 2 cardellini clamps, use this bar that's already conveniently placed up there for us.
That one there.
Clamp
Okay.
off there, hang the lights, power them up.
Perfect.
And then we're going to use a sheet of unbleached muslin to drape underneath to diffuse and just kill shadows and just kind of
Help
give
that
us a nice
wash.
soft light. Yeah.
Nice, awesome. Okay, well, I'm excited to get hands-on. How about we have this lovely ladder for both of us as well too, but we'll grab the cardellini, just like the
One for
macaroni.
you.
Excellent. We have this smooth one here. That's perfect. We got the rough one there. Excellent. So yeah, excellent. So where exactly are we planning on hooking these up to? Do we do it on the light first, or
No.
it's more of the secure?
Always place your clamp first to make sure it's secure, and then give it a little tug, make sure everything's good and safe. So yeah, you can join me on this ladder.
I
here.
love this ladder right here. This is perfect.
Awesome. So what we want to do is have the post pointing horizontal that way.
Okay.
So yeah, just find your spot up here, and you gotta loosen that up a little bit. And let's go almost all the way to this beam here. Yeah. And then just give it so that the jaws are around the round part there.
There we
So
go.
that it's nice and tight. Yeah, give it a good tug. Once you got it there, if it feels like it can support a 5-pound light, then
I think it can support a 5-pound light.
we're good there. All right. Okay, so when you're dealing with the light, you've got a few pivot points. You've got this yoke here has the two things. So
That's
that,
right.
yeah.
Loosened from the sides here. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So we're going to be mounting them this way, so you can start by locking these off nice and tight so that there's no pivot at all on the light and the yoke.
Perfect. Yep, that's
Yeah.
nice and tight there.
All right. So yeah, we're just going to place these lights on the 5/8 post. Yeah, nice and flat that way.
Looks like I'm fighting with a little bit of interference up here.
Loosen that, I believe. Am I going the right way?
Oh, I see. That's why. The interference was that I wasn't doing my job.
That bar actually might be getting in your way too.
Ever so slightly.
I see. Your Cardellini has a longer post than mine. That's all right. So here's an example of problem solving. We
Excellent.
can, we don't really have the option to spin this way because then the lights are too far out this way. However,
right.
these lights have a dual receiver, so you can go this way or this way. So what we can do is we can hang the light that way.
This
Give
way.
that a little tighten, which actually benefits us a little bit because gravity is on our side because the yoke is down this way, so it doesn't have any like horizontal pressure
Right.
wanting to make it pivot. So
I'm
yeah,
assuming
then we
we'll
just
loosen the yoke
loosen
here.
these off.
Oh, geez, I
towards
tightened
you.
this one. Oh,
Yeah.
there we go.
Awesome.
The classic righty-tighty, lefty-loosey.
Absolutely. Yep. So yeah, we can just open these barn doors up, and then you can tighten off your connector there.
Perfect. And as wide as possible, because what we're going for, folks, is that wash feeling, right? We're not going for like a direct case of light or altering that. It's kind of that, just that big wash.
Yeah.
I like that.
So before we want to get any further, this one's a bit of a long one, but we will take our little safety cable and we're going to go, here, I'll give you that one.
Okay, perfect.
And so we're going to go through the yoke and then around the support beam that we have. like that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And I note as well too that it's kind of in between where the clamp's at as well too. You don't want to, like, is that something that you need to consider about where that placement is?
Sometimes, yeah. It depends on like what kind of support you have. Like right now, we're pretty lucky with this beam being up here. We could put a cable around the Cardellini as well.
Right.
But this will support both. If the Cardellini fails, or if this fails, then the light will stay up.
Perfect.
Yeah. So
I'm just untangling mine here real quick, but I'm going to catch up as much as I can. Perry loves emphasizing these moments where I can't. I really demonstrate the lack of ability that I have when it comes to these fine motor skills. Thanks, Barry. Excellent. Okay. So yeah, just to kind of emphasize the point that you had, so we're going to thread it through here.
Through here and over here, yep.
Over here.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And of course I grabbed the longest one I have. So,
well, that's okay. I think there's a point to be made as well too. So with the length you have, you need to make sure that it only drops a certain
yeah, you
amount,
don't want
right?
it to drop very far because, you know, it's not like we're dropping it, you know, 30 feet so it reaches terminal velocity so that the force on the cable is max.
Even more. Yeah, you only want to drop like basically a couple inches or a foot or something like that.
And so having this here, you know, if it does fall, the light's going to stop still high above our heads.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect.
There. And then we want to run the power to it, which is always a difficult thing when the light is in place. All right.
Excellent.
Okay, so we got power, and then typically when you're on set, before you turn a light on, you yell striking or sparking.
Okay.
And that makes everybody look at you so that when you turn the light on, they get blinded.
Some of the tricks of the trade.
yeah. So yeah, striking, but we got to flip it to the AC, not the battery side. So there we go.
Striking. Ooh, wow. That has got some power to it for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty bright. That's 100%. And we're going to go, let's give it a nice, warm, cozy feeling. So we'll go to the 3200.
Nice.
I think this one's all right at that. It is. So there is a nice warm light, and we're going to be here, so the light is directly above us. Now it's it's harsh. There's you know, some shadows when we go over top. So the next step is our sheet of muslin. So I'll give you that corner.
Perfect.
And I will give you a number 1 pony clamp.
Thank you.
And let's if you go that way.
Okay.
I'll just bring this around the ladder. And so, pull your corner tight. Okay, actually, give me that corner, and you can grab the next one.
Excellent.
And so, we will just go right to this conduit here. Pull it nice and tight.
Excellent.
Awesome.
All right.
All right, and now I'm just going to bring this up and drape it over here. So I'll grab you another pony clamp. And then we're going to move the ladder just a couple inches over this way. And we bring the sheet of muslin up. Here, I'll get my corner, then you can pull yours tight, and we'll adjust if we need to.
Sounds good.
So you can clamp yours there, and I'll get one more.
Awesome. And one more.
No, I think we're good. We have enough
Nice.
tension there. So I'll just do one more fine-tuning tug on that side.
Perfect.
Yeah, so if we pull that tight, if you could go grab a number 2 pony clamp, and I'll get this sealed up, and we have
number
ourselves.
2.
Thank you, sir. All right. And now we have a warmer, cozier, diffused.
I see what you mean when it comes to the harsh versus the softer form as well too. Like it really kind of it washes out that color a little bit more because like unlike the previous view that we had without the muslin, you can kind of see a lot more. The light was more direct and it was more down, and this one really kind of just washes it out. So
yeah.
No, that's
Diffuses it
awesome.
across the scene. So
That's amazing. That's amazing as
Right
well
on.
too. I'd like to talk a little bit about this ladder as well. This is like a fantastic tool. I didn't realize that you could have people on both sides of the ladder as well. I was kind of joking with you about it before, but I'm dead serious when I call this the Honda Civic equivalent of the ladder as well. This is perfect as well. Perry, it looks like you had something here for us as well to the
We
side.
could just see it seated.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We'll kind of pack up
drop them anywhere.
Excellent. Oh, well, thank you.
Nice soft backlight here.
Yeah, that is fantastic. I really appreciate a lot of that, like that creative adaptability as well too. Really cool to kind of actually see. We didn't actually plan that part, but it was like, yeah, the interference that I had with the light. I'm really glad to know that there was like that that extra segment that you could plug into as well. Could you tell me a little bit more about some of those other challenging sets that you've been at?
You know, it is. Everything is different. Every experience is different. Like there might be some similarities, but yeah, sometimes you get to a place, you think you can do something, and then you're like jammed up by an inch, like we were with that light right there. You know, a lot of other lights don't have the dual receiver, so
That's right.
you have to, yeah, improvise in a different way. You know, you have to change the car leading clamp so it's upright or something, and you know, do that, or grab a different clamp. You know, which adds more time to the setup. And like, you know, I always find that when you're on set, the faster you can do something, just the better day the rest of the crew has.
Yeah.
You know, obviously safety comes into consideration, whereas like if you can do it fast and unsafe, you don't want to do that. You want to do it slow and safe.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I can certainly tell like that ratio can be like, well, I mean, like many different locations or work environments and such, like the time is money. And kind of that pressure always being present as well to try to like get fix the problem or start production and get the thing moving as well. How do you typically deal with those types of pressures?
Stay calm, stay positive.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just reminding folks like they're like I find it's always giving people the why, and I really appreciate just like in that demonstration you're always kind of explaining now. It's like, hey, well, it seems like this wasn't working, so like and the reason why is just like a couple extra millimeters. Rather than just settling with that, let's go and adapt and build a plan around that piece as well too, which I really appreciated as well. I'm still kind of impressed with just how much the wash is actually working with that muslin.
Right? Yeah.
How long have you had like fabric like this?
I've had this piece of fabric for about 3 years, and there's a couple of burn holes in it from.
I did see that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we didn't always have LED lights. You know, you needed a thick pair of gloves to move lights around because they were. I mean, you guys know stage lighting; those theater lights get really hot.
Really warm.
Yeah.
Really warm.
Yeah. So my first set of real professional lights were some old canister lights from a theater.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, these are great. They come with a C-clamp. I bought some like speaker stands and I just clamped them all over. So they were just like pockmarked full of dings and dents and things. But I could put lights anywhere, but they were very hot.
Yeah.
And being the crafty poor guy that I am, I didn't have barn doors, but I had a bunch of black sheet metal and some old wire coat hangers. So I fabricated my own barn doors.
I can imagine what those looked like for sure. And like, it's a shame that we don't have them to kind of show off here today, like the early beginnings.
They were not, you had to use the gloves for those too, because the edge of the sheet metal was sharp.
Little pokey.
But I was 19 years old, and I'm like, I got an idea, we got to do this.
Yeah. So could you tell me, when was that transition going from like the very hot lights to like the physical hot lights to now more of the LED style as well?
Yeah, it's, well, I went from canister lights from an old theater to like a Lowell kit that was also, you know, tungsten bulbs, very hot. And then, over the last decade, you know, like RE sky panels, those things like, oh, you could use these LED lights that don't get hot, but you need $15,000 to buy one. And you know, that was way out of there. But now other companies are starting to compete with like the big names like RE and that with more affordable, user-friendly pricing with the same sort of like comparable output. Yeah. You know, it's not quite apples to apples, but you know, it's just becoming more affordable for guys like you and I to be able to, you know, spend $2,500 on like a big light, whereas if you were buying like an old hot light, it would be, you know, $8,000 or $9,000, or if you're getting that version in the expensive kind as a, you know,
Even
LED,
more.
then it's 3 times that price or something.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, and that's something that I hope that our viewers can also appreciate, just like I did, is that you know, even despite like the gear and kind of showing it all on the table, putting it together finally, it's a really simple setup, honestly.
Right.
Like it's just, you just need to plug in the essentials and make sure that you've been able to clip safety clip it and make sure that you've kind of done your due diligence, and then you're kind of set up to succeed at that point. So no, I thank you again so much, Charlie, for kind of showing us a little bit of like the impromptu adaptability when it comes to that whole setup as well too. So like this has been fantastic. And for those of you that are still tuning in, stay tuned, because I know like we just kind of touched a little bit on your previous professional life as well too. We're going to get into more of that just in our last segment here with Charlie. So for those of you tuning into the live stream, stay tuned. For those that are tuning in on YouTube or Telus Optic TV, thank you so much for watching. And thank you once again to Good Times Comedy Club for allowing us the space to film here. We could not have done this without you. So stay tuned. This has been the Windy City's Finest on location with Clark and Perry. I'm Clark. He's Perry. This has been
Charlie.
Inspiring the Artist in You. Perry. This has been
Charlie Christensen.
Inspiring the Artist in You. Awesome. Thank you again so much. And for folks tuning in right now, this is going to be our last segment of what we're going to be covering. This is going to be the interview segment where we talk a little bit more about your professional life and your journey as a filmmaker for the most part, because I love just how juicy your bio was, just with some of the other like progressional timeline pieces as well. For myself, like I'm very curious to talk a little bit about your filming journey at the beginning. So when you kind of started, it sounded like when you were like 19, you built like these barn doors and all that such too. I'm kind of curious, like what was your first like purchase or venture into filmmaking?
Well, yeah, for the longest time, I was very inspired. I wanted to make movies, but I had no idea how to. Like when I was a teenager, I was like, "Oh, I have all these, masters of the universe. I want to make a stop motion. How do I do that? No idea." So I wrote a script, and then I stared at my toys. Didn't know what to do. But it was when I was 18, and I was working in a sports bar where I met these two guys that would come in all the time, and they were movie fans, and we just started talking, and I had some scripts, and we were figuring some stuff out, and then their brother, who's Brad, you guys know him, he was very frugal, and he purchased a camera just from his savings, and we just started filmmaking from then on. We just learned how to do it. Like, I mean, I had a couple old lava lamps where I just took the top off, and okay, these are our lights.
Yeah, there you go.
Didn't really have anything, and then we had a friend of ours who was in our little film collective. His aunt runs a dance studio, and they do a year-end music video performance thing. So we're like, oh, well, let's get in on that. And we started like, oh, let's try to figure out how to do this for money. And everybody else was like, nah, I'm out. So I ended up like trying to be a videographer for a few years. And used some of that money from our first project to buy some canister lights. And all that kind of stuff. And found out that the corporate videography side was just like, this is a job. It kind of takes the passion out of it. It wasn't very inspired or anything, so I kind of left that behind. And then, over the course of like 4 or 5 years, that group of friends and I, we made like 30 short films and learned a whole bunch of things.
Until when was it? Like around 2016 or so, or 2012? Sorry.
So in 2009, we shot a feature film for $2,500 and spent way more than that, but that was the allocated budget. Learned a lot of ins and outs, and I was going through a divorce, and things were kind of crazy, but I was playing a character who was being verbally and physically abused by some partner. So it was like my divorce in my real world was very, very easy, because I got to like channel all this energy into this performance,
into the acting,
and be calm
real
in my
tears.
real world. Right? So from 2009 until 2012, it took 3 years to finish the film, and then we finally showed that. And then life kind of took me away from film for a while.
Of course.
And then in 2016, I found myself with a bit more free time, and I was like, okay, I need to get back into making some stuff. So 2016, I directed a short film, and that was the first time I had directed anything for about 10 years. And my friend Brad was like, okay, well, we could do this, but why? What's the why? I'm like, I just want to try to make something really good. Just to do it. And so, we got to shoot this thing, and long story short, always clean your wounds, because going into filming, I found I had an infection from a cut on my hand, and I spent a bunch of time in the hospital instead of working on
Oh my goodness.
So the film, it's not that great by my standards because
Sure.
I had to leave during production
Yeah.
and go to the hospital for antibiotics. And stuff.
Yeah, of course.
Um,
The mortal vessel.
Yeah, but you know, we finished it and it was presentable, and then we
Yeah.
submitted that to some festivals and we won an award.
Yeah, I
for-
was about to say this one was called Room for
for
Rent.
Rent. Yeah.
That's right, and you won an award over in New Brunswick for the Canadian Short Film.
Yeah,
Festival?
Canada Shorts, I think. Is the
Canada
name.
Shorts.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, so it was an award of distinction.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it felt really good to like get back into filmmaking, and then hey,
After-
I got it in.
Yeah, after a break, having a boom of like that success rate there.
Yeah,
That is a
right.
fantastic
Yeah,
piece.
yeah, it was really good. So then from 2016 till 2019, I think I shot 4 more short films and just, you know, got that momentum happening, and then, you know, had some other friends who were starting to get Telus Storyhive grants, and there was some money happening, and just got, I got kind of the reputation as like the guy to call for support.
Yeah.
And so I landed into like kind of a key grip role where it's like, yeah, I'm there to help, to support, you know, light and camera support. That's what I can do. And,
Yep.
and then it kind of turned into, because I've been a trades guy for so long, and learning how to, you know, rig things up high, comfortable at heights, all that kind of stuff. I had an opportunity to get hired on as a key grip for a TV show.
Yeah.
And you know, at first the DOP was like, "Well, you don't have any experience." And then after day one, he's like, "Oh,
Oh, yes. yeah. It's not just on paper. It comes to a lot of practical experience. To which I'll make some comments as well. Like it sounds like your story is just learn by doing.
absolutely."
Like, and just getting that, just get your hands dirty. You're gonna make mistakes, but like you're going to learn from those mistakes and just grow as a person and get more comfortable with the things that you're regularly
Yeah.
doing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like that 4 years of making a bunch of short films and then shooting a feature,
Yeah.
I call that our guerrilla film school, and the
Yeah.
feature film was our final project.
That's right.
Because
Yeah.
it was all DIY. This
Yeah.
was before YouTube. We couldn't just look up how to do things. We had to read up on how to do things,
Mm-hmm.
or you know, watch some movies and maybe find a VHS of a behind the scenes of something. And, you know, learn by doing. Absolutely. And yeah, I think that skill set has definitely benefited me as a rookie in the industry, you know, because I come with a lot of real world experience.
So I would imagine, and the next question I have is like, and I would imagine I know the answer already, but when it comes to like certain film schools or like acting schools even, a lot of people can get really into the specifics of certain avenues or medias and such. I'm here to ask you, do you prefer more specific knowledge or do you prefer more versatile? Long stretch. I think I have a pretty educated guess off of what your preference is, but I was wondering if there's any thoughts when it comes to that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, real world experience is paramount in the film industry, I think. Like just, you know, being a human being and struggling and understanding and learning, you know, the hard life lessons kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Just makes you just a more valued asset on a crew. Lately, though, I have been actually more interested in like trying to, you know, take some like electrical courses to just be a better gaffer and have a better understanding of, you know, your amperage, your draw, blowing breakers, keeping people safe. You know, like I've never had to actually get a big, you know, 30K generator yet, but if I do that, I need to make sure I'm not going to kill someone.
Yes, yeah, that's right. You need to prepare in order for those ventures as well too. So
absolutely. So, it's a mix. You know, I think
Yeah.
like specific like. People are different, and the way they learn is different. And some people might very much value or benefit from going to like a specific trade school or film school or whatever. But I think in the independent world, learn by doing is definitely.
Yeah. So I'll go back to even when you went back for school. You touched this briefly on it with the interview with Perry there. It was a degree or diploma for multimedia as well. Could you tell me a little bit more about like what that education was like? Is it more kind of broad spectrum, or was it like what was the reason to take multimedia and maybe not filmmaking?
Well, lack of availability.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
that's true.
That was the multimedia program at the college was kind of the closest to my interests that I had, because they had the digital communications and media, which is kind of like that's what the broadcast journalism program morphed into.
Yeah.
And so like there's radio hosting and like other things like that, and like documentary, real world filmmaking hasn't really been a peak interest of mine. It's more like fictional narrative stuff is what I'm drawn to.
Yeah.
And so the artistic side of the multimedia production was kind of what drew me there. And then in reality, the filmmaker in me only got about 30% value out of it, because there was some writing and animation and video and audio production stuff there. But then there's a lot of like web design and graphic design and coding and that kind of stuff.
Right.
It was like, it was fun to do, but it didn't, I'm not carrying that knowledge with me into my career.
Yeah.
But it was still, I think just the environment, the learning environment, the college is very, very like just a good place to go and expand your awareness.
I thought it was so interesting, like your perspective when going into for this learning at the age that you were at around 30 or so. And we've had a chance to interview some people who have also had a similar journey as well. I find it's so interesting to go from a place of high focused learning, very like the turnaround in 4 years is actually insane if you think about it. For a degree or 2 years for a diploma or anything, and it's so focused and so quick. And then taking like a 6-year hiatus type deal and then going back to that. Can you tell me a little bit about that experience, what it was like to have a little bit more of that worldly experience, and then go back to a very focused, more book heavy centric learning style?
Right. Well, I was 35 when I started, and I went back to college, starting with like a general studies, just because I was like, well, I've been out of school for a very long time.
Yeah.
So,
who knows what I know?
Yeah. Right. So yeah, I took some just other classes and enjoyed being back in that learning environment. And then when I started the multimedia program, it's like, because it's college, which is more of like a trade school type of thing.
Right.
There wasn't a lot of like book heavy stuff.
It
was very like hands-on practical,
Right.
which I really love, because that's
who
kind
you
of my
are.
MO. It's put my hands on it. I want to learn. So yeah, it was very good. And then also, like, I mean, full candidness here, like I dropped out of high school in grade 11 just because I was more interested in working than I was going to school.
Yeah.
And my teacher was like, blah, 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 you need to do this or you're going to not. I'm like, yeah, I don't like the way you're treating me, so why would I come to your class? And I just got more value out of going to work at a restaurant at 15 because the peers were there. Yeah, it was just so much fun and camaraderie and all that kind of stuff. And like the work environment was very attractive, whereas the school environment wasn't.
Yeah.
So then to have 18 years of life and work and all that kind of stuff, and then go into school, it was amazing. It was great. And like the multimedia program, you have to have your English 30, which I didn't. They're like, oh, take this AccuPlacer test, and because I've done the work that I've done, sales and service and estimates and stuff, I actually scored 100% on the test. I'm like, oh. Take that, teachers from 1980.
There you go. There you go. That is fantastic.
So yeah, it was a good like ego boost to know that I'm good at English, because I write emails and I write estimates and I communicate and I read books, and I didn't have to achieve the diploma for high school to amount to something.
Totally,
right?
Totally. And so, I really appreciate this journey that you've been on, even going back to the high school and dropping out at the grade 11 type deal, and just what you've been able to kind of achieve, and being so humble as you are as well. It's been such a treat to kind of get to know you as well. I'm kind of curious if we can dive a little bit into kind of more your work life as a general contractor and its relationship with your acting profession as the grafter. Is that what I grafter? Is that what I Gaffer? Gaffer. There we go.
Gaffer. Yep.
But yeah, could you tell me a little bit about like some of the similarities, or any comments that you have in regards to those two?
Yeah. Well, I mean, from early 20s until now, I started roofing, and then I got into like siding and like full exteriors of a house kind of a thing. So scaffolds and ladders and being up high and being safe and having your safety equipment, that kind of stuff, and just being comfortable putting my body into these dangerous situations. Yeah. That translated very easily into being like a key grip or a gaffer. Yeah. I mean, a gaffer on a bigger set is the one who just like works with the DOP to light the scene and tells their their crew what to do and where to put lights and all that kind of stuff. But in the indie world, it's like, well, I might be a gaffer in the credits, but I'm doing A, B, C, D.
Yeah, you're doing all the tasks pretty much.
For sure. Yeah, and just being up on ladders, rigging things safely, that kind of stuff, and problem solving. Like sometimes, in the construction side of things, you can't get your truck in, you can't get your ladder in, you can't get the materials, and you gotta think on your feet. You gotta do that. And then in the film world, it's like it's more so that because each day you're at a different set, different location. You're in a studio, you're in a house, you're in the field. There's so much thinking on your toes. In that. So I think having the industry experience, and life experience, and then now being able to earn a paycheck working in film.
Absolutely. So I really appreciate, especially kind of more of that focus on putting like and like experience together as well. Like, do you feel like becoming that general contractor like role in your life, was that more of an inspiration because it was like experience with rigging, with what you enjoyed doing, or which kind of informed the other, if that makes sense?
Well, I got married very young, and I was very keen on filmmaking. And my wife at the time had a high-paying kitchen manager job, and I was just delivering pizza, and I was writing scripts and trying to put short films together and all that kind of stuff. And
Doing
then
the
she got pregnant, and I was like, I guess I need a real job.
Yeah.
And so I found a job roofing, and then rose through the ranks very quickly, and found that I hit a ceiling with that company. If I wasn't family, I wasn't going to make any more than I was making.
That's fair.
So I decided to start my own company, and then just went from there. Found a partner, got some jobs, and being a personable kind of guy, being able to sell jobs, and then also prove my skill in putting together a roofing project, a siding project. People can see the work once it's finished, and then you get that kind of thing, and then it's just. From that has built into like having a reputation as a reliable person, and the jobs come in from the contracting side of things, and then now just trying to walk away from that and go more into film has been great.
I find that sometimes like with other interviews we find certain people that have like a perfect mix between the left and the right brain, and only speaking of that, where it's like you have like the creative side of things also informing like the more technical side of things, and just like the technical side of things really feeding into that other side. I think we found a good mix between you two. Like you said, it can be very technical heavy work, but you seem to be very like personable and very good with people, and really just down to earth, and people really value that stuff just all across the board too. I guess my last question for this part of the segment and for this part of the feature as well too is just any tips and tricks, like if you had to give your top 3 tips and tricks to any of the gaffers or any aspiring general contractors as well too that could find themselves in a similar situation like you were, what would that be?
Hold yourself accountable. Stay calm. Be kind. Those are 3. But just be adaptable. It's like you might have a certain idea in your mind, and then when you go to implement that, it has to change, and you still have to finish it by a certain time. So if you can adapt to change and just let it slide, you'll go to bed happy every night.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, thank you again so much, Charlie. This has been fantastic. And thank you again for sharing your story with us and your expertise as well, and your demonstrations. I'm sure, just like myself, our viewers can certainly appreciate that as well too. So for those of you that are tuning in to the live stream, thank you so much for watching so far. That's going to be it for all the segments here. If you've been tuning in onto the YouTube channel or on Telus TV, thank you so much for watching. Thank you once again to Good Times Comedy Club for allowing us to film in this location. We couldn't have done this without you, so all the love sent to you folks as well. That's it. That's all we have so far. So thank you again one more time. This has been the Windy City's Finest on location with Clark and Perry. I'm Clark. He's Perry. This has been